You better, you better, you better, no signal flare, I adjust the alignment. Room settle in when I move in silence. No need to state it, the work is evident. Steps stay measured, the path stays deliberate. Pressure stay useful, it sharpens the view. Every turn logged, every move see through. Didn't rush moments I built with intent. Now time moves quieter everywhere I step. Stillness before it all opens. Breath held light, eyes focused. No rush, no resistance. Tick stay steady, that's the distance. Not chasing the fame, here to freeze what's molten. Break open the silence, keep the truth ice coated. No clock to punch, and I'm the one who dictates. Every second's a fuse, watch the skyline detonate. Yeah. Years move forward, but the pace stays calm. Learn when to hold and when to move on. Every win quiet, every loss informs. Nothing gets wasted, it just transforms. They look for moments, I look for shape. Long view thinking, room to create. No fear in the mirror, no roller outgrow. This wasn't a peak, it was room to grow. No countdowns, no finish lines, just motion. Turns, I'm steady with angles. Lines stay clean even under the tangle. I don't chase clarity, I let it arrive. Built this momentum by staying alive. Every day stacks small, but it stacks all the same. Quiet decisions still wide in the frame. Nothing dramatic, no need for display. I move through the hours, let time make the way. I learned the weight of a patient step. What stays unfinished, what gets kept. Some doors close off, no sound, no scene. Just space where noise used to be. No bitterness carried, no score to settle. Only what sharpens, only what levels. The city keeps pace, but I don't compete. I move independent, stay light on my feet. Same rhythm, same direction. No detour, just progression. These some pictures you can't put up on your timeline. More vivid than the NYC skyline. Some crazy shit you can't imagine, only I find. You just coming for a trip inside my mind. City keeps moving, I stay in my lane. Light shift once, then settle again. No final word, no need to explain. The word keeps moving, steady, unchanged. Clock keeps ticking, but it don't rush me. I move when it's right, now when it's lucky. No spotlight needed, no finish to find. Just motion, intention, and ownership of time.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Like after Vegas, nobody really be putting in that motherfucking work besides Resla. Resla be live.
Everybody talking, few people checking.
That's the entry point. Opinions fly reckless, fact second. Confidence loud, but the logic's fragmented. Heard it once, now it's gospel accepted. Say it enough, it feel true when it's said quick. Volume mass gaps in the messaging. Certainty high, comprehension negligent. Truth don't trend, so it's sit in the back. While comfort get wrapped and presented as fact. They swear they principle, swear they prepared to the pressure. Reply and the stance disappear. Beliefs real strong till the questions get fed. And it's tone police and dodge and adjust in the chair. Opinionated, tested to dead. If it fall when it's questioned, it never was solid. Opinionated, say it with chest. If it crack under pressure, it failed our exaggerate. Outrage on schedule, morals on lease. Convictions loud till they cost you some peace. Everybody brave in the comfort of tweets. Real quiet when accountability speaks. They talking clips, not a sentence complete. Certainty loud, but the logic asleep. Ask when, why watch the posture retreat. Confidence trip over holes in the speech. They call it complex when it's clear as a bell. Say that's your opinion when facts don't sit well. Truth don't yell, it apply pressure slow. Expose contradictions they already know. Run it. Everybody expert, nobody vetted. Receipts hit the table, suddenly defensive. They attack delivery, never the sentence. Missed the whole point just to guard their perspective. Debate turn performative, crowd pick a side. Before the thought land, the answer decide. They want wins, not understanding. Want the clip, not the meaning behind it. Slow it down, listen close. If it can't breathe, it probably broke. Not every question an act of aggression. Not every pause mean a loss of direction. Pressure don't kill it, reveal the frame. If it survive, he'd earn its name. They want agreement, just a debate. Validation masters, keeping it safe. If the tape can't stand without getting protected, that's not being attacked, that's being corrected. Opinionated, no safe takes, no soft lanes, no applause for avoiding weight. Opinionated, claims get measured. If it can't hold up, it don't get sheltered.
No safe angles.
fuck 'em say?
Opinionated.
What's good, everybody? What is good? It has been a while since I've actually had to say that. Welcome to an episode of Opinionated with yours truly. We have been gone for a while, but in case you did not know, I am your host, Resla. And welcome to the actual first episode of Opinionated 4. I know we were gone for back now. We are back now. And hopefully, we will have a lot of stuff that will be very entertaining, very thought provoking for you guys here on the channel. So, first of all, I want to say we've been gone for a while, but now we're going to start bringing back some of that flair that got us started in the first place, right? Now, we're going to have a conversation today that is a very important one, but it's something that we all need to pay attention to as well. And the conversation, rather, the question that comes up, are streamers good people? And I want to start tonight a little differently because I don't want people to misunderstand the question before it even gets off the ground, right? When people hear, are streamers good people? They immediately might start jumping towards judgment. Like, we're about to line folks up and start handing them morality grades. That's not what this is. The question keeps coming up in my mind over and over because people notice patterns. Someone starts streaming and they seem cool. They may be a person who is helpful, a person who is thoughtful, a person who is entertaining, a person who's even inspiring. And then time passes, as it does for all of us. And eventually, something happens. All of a sudden, they are in something that is considered to be messy. It is shady. It is outright terrible. And every time people say things like, man, I didn't expect this from them. I didn't expect that they would get into such a thing, which tells me we're surprised. We're surprised by something we've already seen enough times to the point where we can say that we should stop being surprised about it. So I want to slow this down just a little bit because streamers aren't monsters. They're also not saints. They're people. And most people never live under this kind of pressure, under this sort of scrutiny, right? Most people get to mess up pretty quickly and pretty often. Most people get to grow without receipts. Most people get to reinvent themselves without an audience keeping score. Streamers don't. They don't have that luxury. Streamers, for streaming, is pressure that never really turns off. Attention, money, validation, criticism, expectations. Once it, all pretty much you get that all at once. And I mean you may even get that for years. For the real question that I'm thinking about, it just hit me. The real question tonight maybe is not even are streamers good or bad. I think it's, does streaming change people or does it show us who they already were and maybe even a little bit faster? I think that's the frame for everything tonight. Now, before we get a little bit into stuff, I want to give you guys a little bit of the framing of how we're moving things in the show, right? So, the quick thing before we dive deeper is that for those of you guys, especially if we get into the show, if you guys happen to be one of the people that want to do donations or super chats, I'm letting you know right now they will not be the thing that interrupt the show. I will get to them eventually throughout the actual show. I will read them practically pretty much probably in the middle of where I'm thinking the show might be. And even at the end of the stream, I want to make sure that I give you guys your due and your credit as well for being supporters. And that's not meant to say that I am ignoring support, but rather I need to protect the framing of the conversation, whether it's a conversation that I'm having with you guys or it's a conversation I might be having with someone else, right? So I just want to make sure I put that out there up front. I want the ideals to land before people start believing that the money into start entering the room. So that's the first and foremost thing. If you support the stream, first of all, thank you. Your comments will be read, they will be highlighted, all that stuff. Your support will be recognized. But I just want to put this out there. If the ideal is just to have insults, people who are just going to be trolling particular people or stuff completely outside of the topic itself, I will acknowledge your actual contribution, but all that other BS will most likely become ignored. Ignored politely, but also consistently. I'm just going to let you know that. I'm not creating the streams that you guys can see everywhere else, which is just considered to be at this point chaos radio. That's just the way it is, right? There will be an open panel tonight. Let me say that again. There will be an open panel tonight, but it will not be instant. I know that's what you guys are used to seeing in a lot of places that you may visit, because we will be building towards that. I am building towards a show that is structured and a goal that's behind it. Panels do not carry the show. Let me say it again. Panels do not carry the show. All right? That's just not the thing that it is. Now, I know there's a lot of other places that they're used to that being the thing. It's not for me. When it does open, we will have a limited amount of people who will come through to have an actual discussion. But there will be discussions prior to even in panel. So I'm not even worried about the panel. I'm just going to keep it a buck with you. So, and I will not have a full measure of people. Do not expect to see a whole fucking screen plethora of icons of people. That's just not really a thing as well. So, as much as I want to have conversation with people on an actual panel, I'm also wanting to know what are the thoughts, the ideas, and of course the opinions of people out in the crowd as well. So people will come in, they will come out throughout the show. That's going to be the theme of it. We need to hear from as many people as possible, not just one person hogging up the entire show, the entire spot. There will be opportunities, chances for a one-on-one type of style, whether you want to call it interview or conversation, discussion. I know some of you guys don't know the difference. You call those things debates. But that will be something that I'm still sorting out, but it is something that's going to be in play as well. All right. And because I want to save the structure, not just of the show, but also for the time for people who want to do the replays, the show itself, especially for open panels, um will be structured. So that means structured in a way, not in how we frame ourselves and how we have conversations, but about the time. So show time is going to be roughly 3 hours. I'm thinking might be the minimum. We might extend it to 4, depending on how the actual framing of the panel actually works, right? But I only expect panels to probably last about an hour or so. If we want the opportunity for that to be longer, that goes on the support of the actual people themselves, because shows that are too long never catch replay value. And I want everybody to be able to go back and always be able to take a look at what we got going on here on Opinionated. And that's pretty much, I would say, it. I want this episode to be something you can replay, you can go back and get some reference in, and not something that just devolves into noise for hours. Most streams, I think, fail in this regard. So I've been paying attention to a lot of people. And that's something that we're not going to be doing. So with that being said, I want to highlight everybody who's already been here in the building, say what's up to you guys, and then we will get going with it. Right. So first and foremost, we got Locksmith. Jeremy's in the building. I appreciate you for actually being here. No Chaser, of course, is in the building as well. He said, let's go. Miss Raven as well. Appreciate you. Miss Raven being in the building. Joe Cool is here. What's going on, Joe? What's going on, Joe? What's going on? What's up? It makes me happy to see you. I'm happy to see you too, good sir. I am happy. Oh, we got Crazy Mama, always listening, always paying attention to the parties. I don't know how she always gets the invites, but she gets the invites. All right. I know we got other people that's going to be lurking in the background as well. And shout out to Shadow Buddha. Hey, what's going on, Shadow Buddha? I appreciate you being here. And of course, as you get into the building, do yourself a favor, let people know that you actually are here. I know a lot of people like to sit behind, but it's always good to participate rather than to only spectate. So my first premise going into this is I want to really just get into the whole thing of streamers. And I guess my first thing thinking about is, oh, I didn't even see that. Hey, what's going on, Brick? Brick walking to the building as well. Salute to you, my guy. Streamers are people. I know some of you guys have heard me say this, which is made me think a lot about the conversation that was boiling in my head. But streamers are people. In this particular, I'll call it a segment. In this particular segment, it exists to reset the expectations because people talk about streamers like they're a different species. They're not. Streamers are just people. They're just people with a camera and hopefully an audience. They have insecurities, they have blind spots. They are an unfinished product, an unfinished business. The difference is their growth or lack of it happens publicly. Pressure doesn't create flaws, it reveals them. So when someone eventually gets exposed, I don't ask what changed. What I'm asking is what went unchecked? What got rewarded instead of challenged? What was always there, sitting in the background but quiet? This question about streamers being people in this segment is not about blaming streamers. It's about the realism of being a streamer. And this is the thing that I think a lot of people don't really take into questions. So what I'm going to do right off the bat, because we're doing this in a particular way. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going to drop the link. I want to have a conversation about this particular thing, what our thoughts are when we get into that before we move into the next segment. So link is in the chat for you guys. Be sure to hit that link real quick. And I'm going to have a conversation about this one, about the idea of streamers being people. Let me say that again, about streamers being people, because I don't think a lot of us are really going into it. And by the way, if we don't really have anybody getting into it, don't really want to talk about it, I will feel free to move on to the next segment. But I really want to get into that because I know there's a lot of people who are content creators, people who are streamers, specifically streamers, people who are, quote, influencers who like to get on to panels and like to talk. And they love the idea of just conversing and having that diverse perspective very loudly. And then there are people who are sitting in the background. But here's your opportunity to be able to say something about it. And we'll get into that. Your thoughts as well. But the idea of people who are streamers, right? A lot of people do not view streamers in the same aspect of how I would say the conventional person would look at as a normal individual that you run across in life. And I want to be able to help people bridge that divide, because I think that's the only way that we can actually support the people that we review, the people that we look at on a regular basis. You know what I mean? So let me say something that sounds, I guess, a bit obvious in that one. Because the second someone turns on a camera and they get the second someone turns onto a camera and they get an audience, right? We stop treating them like they're regular human beings and we start treating them like they're a symbol. I look at so many different people who are streamers online, and I'm talking about the smart ones. I'm talking about the honest ones, the real ones. I'm talking about the good ones. I'm talking about the ones who tell it how it is. And then there's a whole other section of people who like to be the people who are the people who want to boast about things, boast about characteristics, boast about a lot of what they claim to be. And even some people might even say they're just manifesting. They're not actually about the thing, but they have no problem talking about it in general. So when I say we need to have a conversation about articulating this kind of thing, that people don't really understand the pressures that it takes to actually become a streamer, because nobody can live inside a label of being a streamer forever without becoming distorted by it. In real life, you are allowed to be inconsistent. You are allowed to have a bad week. You are allowed to grow quietly. You are allowed to contradict yourself. You are allowed to outgrow old ideals. You are allowed to highlight what's going on in your life. And actually, you're allowed to even create that as a highlight reel, reminding other people of how you used to, in fact, be. Streaming somehow removes that. Everything is recorded, everything is clipped, everything is remembered selectively. So when people ask, why do streamers always end up in something? I think the real question is, why wouldn't they? Coming to the stage, we got the man himself, Rick from Clay Foundations. What is going on, my guy?
What's good, brother, man? Good to see you up. Good to see you doing the thing. Yeah. Um, yeah, man. Excellent topic. Um, you know, and I like the way that you put it, that specifically when we're talking about this subject, streamers, they're not saints, they're not monsters. They're just normal people.
Mhm.
They end up in situations where it seems to rise them to certain levels or puts them below certain levels, and then we put them on those platforms and we see them there, and they can't come out of those spaces for some reason, or even that they themselves put themselves there. So no, I really enjoy it. Yeah, it's a valid point. It's a valid question to ask, to have someone consider, who are these people who do this thing, this streaming? Are they good
So,
people?
let me ask a question, because this is I'm going to ask the questions that come to my mind. Do you think that long term attention reveals people, or does it corrupt them?
Um, it depends on the person.
Well, the reason why I'm asking that, because it seems that whether a person has genuinely good intentions, like I think about the whole what's her face online. She's the female influencer, kind of like in the red pill space, but then you catch her, as much as she's talking about she wants to help men and help women, but then you catch her on a fucking radio call talking about I'll get your husband to come over and I'll do this and that to him, and I'm just like, Sadia Khan. That's what I'm thinking about. That's her name. And I'm just like, well, you're an influencer. You're a content creator yourself. But even given enough time and exposure and growth and notoriety, eventually streamers wind up in being something rather salacious. Is that part of their normal character, or is it simply just a ticking time bomb?
I mean, it's a great question. Maybe it's a tendency, and then it becomes a ticking time bomb, like you said. But then I also believe that there are those individuals who are already wrapped up in these things, and then it finds them in those places. Yeah.
When I think about the concept of being a streamer, and like I said, I think of the exposure and the time and the quality and the character of the people themselves. I kind of make it akin to money, because money doesn't make you a piece of shit. It just amplifies who you are. So the question is, were you always an asshole? Or like, are people just now seeing who you are? Or was this always you and it was just under the cover?
I mean, I'm of the opinion that pretty much everybody is an asshole. So yeah, I mean, there's a human nature to it. So yeah, I don't believe it's just the power itself, but the nature too.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm looking at it in a way that people have different ambitions when they go online versus what people believe our ambition to be, even when we tell them. Let's be honest. If you say you want to be doing a particular thing or streaming because you want to help people, I'm also asking, just based on what I've seen, how long does it take before the notion of you being able to say that you want to help people bites you in the ass? Great example. Now it just hit my mind. Mr. Beast. He starts helping people, starts helping the blind, helping the sick and everything, and he gets crucified for it. Why? Why is a good deed done by someone who has the means a tool that they should not be doing it? But and let's be honest, when he would actually be the epitome, not the epitome, but he's an apex of someone who is considered to have a shit ton of money and uses his resources to help other people, and yet he gets demonized for it. Because what? He does content, because he jumps on streams, because so it's literally you can't do anything right.
No, it's no good deed
Goes
goes
unpunished.
unpunished.
Mhm.
Right. And it's true. It is. So like in the space of politics, there's a culture there. And you can do a great thing, but as soon as you insult your opponent, depending on what the insult is, your base may disavow you.
Yeah. I was thinking about the context of truth, right? You can say things that is considered to be insulting, but if there's truth behind it, if it's a proven and known thing, how far can you go with it? So, for instance, if let's just say we're political opponents, right? And I know that while you may be a stellar politician, I also know that your wife does OnlyFans. Should I mention it during our debate? It will be considered unsportsmanlike.
It would. And it would open a door for your opponent to come back with the smackdown, whatever he has in the arsenal.
Correct. So, what pressure do you think would expose the worst habits about people? Oh no, let me rephrase that. Let me ask him. Let me make it more. Let me make it closer to you. So I want to get your opinion on it. What pressure do you think would expose your worst habit?
Yeah, I mean, just that very thing, insults. I fall prey to it all the time, personally. Yeah, absolutely, 100% fall prey to it. More so, not like, I've heard, things about my look and that sort of thing, that's not a big deal. But insulting my intelligence. So the intelligence part, right? And like, whether I am smart or not, or whether a person's smart or not, it's detrimental to the person's character, and it can drive a massive division between yourself and the person you're insulting. And perhaps people don't realize that they're just playing a game, and they believe it's just a game until, then somebody gets insulted the way that they really didn't want to insult, which is the intelligence part.
Okay. So there is this thing I was writing a note for, and I call it the myth of the different streamer. I'm noticing that there's a pattern that I think everyone recognizes whether they want to or not. And it's because someone show up, and I guess they get a different feeling about the person versus what they're actually saying. A person can come off as being calm, thoughtful, measured, but then they say some of the most downright crazy and inflammatory things. I think about it even in the terms of the space of, I'll mention it as the quote panel verse. I should probably not put air quotes on that, because you all have people who have been streaming for a while, but then eventually something happens along the way, whether it's through themselves or through a mediary, right? And they get caught up in a drama. I mean, a great example that makes me think about this is me being a person who can say I've seen it firsthand, since many people that did online. Good intentions to say go to Vegas could also turn into a scandal. But prior to that, were people thinking about this as being a possible outcome? And that's where the question goes into, were the people who want to do things, were they always like this? And we just didn't know about it? Was it just going to be something that was a ticking time, but was going to happen over time? I think about people online, whether it's a Patrick Bet David or it's a Tim Pool, or whether it's any politician that you get into, or whether it's a person that we look at as, like, even say Mr. Beast. There just seems to be a time. There just seems to be a time where it's going to happen regardless. And it's like, damn, you just can't. It, and I think part of it is that people just, regardless of what, want you to be the bad guy. And the reason why I say that is because when it comes to me looking at human beings, whether it's online or whatever like that, this is my personal belief, my personal opinion. Majority of people want to see you in disarray because it makes them feel better about their life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's really it. Yeah. And I want to say too, because, as someone who actually films other people, one
Legally,
thing that,
legally,
yeah.
legally and professionally, not that other bedroom stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. For a living. What I have noticed is that some of these people will do things on camera that you would be shocked at, which tells me that this is the people that they were off camera. If they're willing to do it on camera, then most likely they're doing it off camera.
See, I don't know about that because I think information changes situation. There are people who, because it's not normal for them to have a camera in front of them, do things that would be considered outside of character.
But how much of that would be for positive value versus negative value?
See, in that, I think that's where context really kicks in. Because, like, your experience in situations will shape your next experience going into something. So a lot of people will run into an experience they never had the first time, and they don't really know how to react because it's a new experience. Like, it, as much as we like to say, like, I'll say for you, like, you like to, you look at 1A content, thing like that, right? To someone who has never really had to deal with law enforcement, it may be a very unnerving situation, not just on the external side of what the people that they're interacting with is saying, but also the internal monologue that they have in their head is how am I behaving, especially if everything that they're moving on is based on an external factor. So not just the police officers they're dealing with, but also if this goes wrong, how many people are gonna be watching me and roasting me or whatever because of that damn body cam?
Right.
And
Yeah.
it might
Because
cause them to do things they normally wouldn't do.
Yeah, because it's not just your camera that you're holding, but the officer has the camera as well. So it's pointing at you, and anybody can grab that. So, um, yeah, absolutely. And so there's an amplitude that happens. Um, yeah, the person that you are is there. That's the person that you were always. But there is an amplitude that happens, not just for yourself, but also for the officer. And for them, I have noticed that there's quite a few that do these things that they shouldn't be doing, but I believe you're actually you kind of have a good point. Is maybe these are things that they've been doing, but they don't know that it's wrong. So if they don't know that it's wrong and it's something that they've been doing, so not only have they been doing it and doing it wrong, but they amplify what they've been doing and doing wrong, and then it becomes something even more egregious because they believe that they're actually right.
So I love the fact you put it together. Now, how is that no different than what some of the streamers do?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, and they're not noticing that people are looking at them going, "Wait a minute. I don't know about that, man. Maybe you shouldn't do that." Mr.
Or
Beast.
or worse, they think it's a norm. So maybe they think it is normal, it's regular standard practice to be egregious. I meet more people who tell me that it is it is more important to engage in destructive behavior, even though I can tell you there's plethora of content that does very well for positive behavior.
Was bad news is good news?
To me, all news is just news.
I mean, that is true. That is true for me too. I like that. That's so for me that works. I like. I don't like putting out bad news, but I know that bad news sells. But I like putting out good news. So if I can put out a good story, I'm definitely going to do that. I love editing a good story. I mean, that's one of the best feelings ever. It's like you finish that up and it's like, oh yeah, this goes to this, to this, to this. And it becomes this great, good feeling story. But then you have to come back around to this the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I think a lot of people running around now, they only want to look at the bad and the ugly. The good part, they'll put in the good part so long as that good part is only relevant to themselves. For instance, I'm going to show you the bad and the ugly. Aren't I good for sharing this with you?
I'm the good guy now.
Yeah. You who else can get you this kind of stuff? Aren't I good?
Yeah, and I believe that pretty much most people. I'm not going to say everyone. I do understand that there's some real psychos out there who just love doing bad, but there's pretty much everyone believes that they're good. Like even if they do bad things, they say, "Oh, I did it because of this reason or that." They make an excuse, but they believe they're doing good. And so the cameraman is no different. The reporter is no different. The streamer is no different. He really does believe that he's doing good, even whenever he is pretty obviously making some very poor decisions.
No, I agree. I think we see a lot of that, but that's the kind of delusion that people put themselves in. And this is why I say your circle is very important, the people that you have around you, because there are people who's willing to do anything for clout. putting it quite frankly and simple. I'm like, you don't even think about what the negative ramifications are because you're too busy in the moment. So there is that. There's absolutely that, and I think this is something that needs to be monitored more often, to be honest with you. But yeah. Um, thank you for that break. I'm gonna go into the second segment. Feel free to drop if you want to come back for later on when we open thing up. That'd be great. But that was great. Thank you.
Thank you, brother man.
All right. So he's absolutely right in that case. There are a lot of people who will do things, and again, because I think a lot of us look at things as standard practice, but it's really not. It's really not. And I think this is another problem that we have with when it comes to streaming or looking at people who are streamers, because we have to also get into the idea of authenticity, which is something that we hear so much as content creators. But if every mistake that you make becomes a betrayal, if every contradiction becomes evidence, evidence used against you, if a bad moment gets moral weight attracted to it, you're no longer reacting to the person. What you do is you're reacting to, I guess, even some people would say, is a broken promise. A broken promise made to probably the viewers, but also a broken promise that you made to yourself about who you are supposed to be. Honestly, streaming doesn't create flaws. It amplifies them. I want it to be very clear because this is where people argue in bad faith. Streaming doesn't streaming does not turn good people into bad people overnight. What it does is that it removes the friction of it. So you could have a normal life. You don't have to get instantly into feedback every time somebody says something. You don't have to get paid for being emotionally relevant. You don't get rewarded for doubling down on public because you just don't want to take an L. You don't need to say something wild because it's an instant response. Appreciate you, Tsunami. Appreciate you. Like, it's just crazy how we do that. And I guess this is the part where, depending on who you are as an actual content creator, as a streamer, we have to talk about the good intentions, or rather the era of good intentions, because this is the part where I need to get into talk to you guys about, because people aren't wrong because they say, yeah, but they started out good, which is I tend to see from a lot of people who watch streams. And that usually is true, to be honest. Most people start out decent, or rather authentic. Most people don't start streaming with bad intentions. I think they start streaming because they want to help. Whether they want to help, they want to teach, they want to build something, they want something to be meaningful. Early streams often feel more real than anything else. Small chit chat, actual conversations, no pressure yet. The problem is that good intentions aren't a foundation for a lot of people. A lot of people start streaming because they've sorted themselves out. And somehow streaming becomes identity before stability, validation before self awareness, attention even before building some restraint. And people praise, people early give praise for people who feel like they're proving what they're doing is something that's actually right. But even when you're going through the steps yourself, when you're recounting some of the steps, you know what happens? You wind up skipping. And that's why they used to be different used to be different is the thing that comes up. Doesn't actually mean what you think people actually mean it is. It's just going to be the case for a lot of people. And I mean, you do whatever you got to do. I don't think a lot of people really treat people with good intentions, or rather, it's just he or she was doing really good, but then they change. Well, first of all, everyone does. Situations change, days change like the weather. So when people say things like they started out good, I go, is that true, or are you just still saying it's still not enough? Because when you're getting started, you appreciate a lot of the people that start in with you. You appreciate, like I said, the small talk. You appreciate the name that you recognize. You love the conversations that you have with other individuals. You appreciate the gratitude of being able to build a community, regardless of how big or small it is. And sometimes they're really good. They really, really are. But here's the part where people find things uncomfortable. Good intentions, like I said, are not a foundation. It's just a starting point. And authenticity, unfortunately, is not stability. So people start doing things that go a little above and beyond their normal character. And I'm happy this is something that Brick was bringing up really, really, really quick, because they'll start saying, like, they'll start actually saying what they think. I- I've done it myself. Some people are just reacting honestly. They're not calculating every word. And for some people that looks like integrity, but it's not at the same time. Authenticity is emotionally honest, but stability is especially when it comes to having it emotionally, is about regulation. Authenticity in the whole, this is how I feel, is nice, but stability will say, this is how I'm going to respond. A lot of people, whether they're reactors, uh, streamers, freaking influencers, a lot of people don't think about it. I mean, even when you look at some of the conversations that happen in the chats, right? You think of people who say, "You're being so real. You're saying what everybody else is thinking." Finally, somebody who's honest. But honesty without restraint, that's just virtue. And that, to me, it's just an unfiltered emotion. Now, what happens when you start receiving praises before your own sense of self-awareness? Because I think this is where the countdown quietly starts up for a lot of people. Because validation feels like confirmation. It does. And this is something that even I so readily try to pull myself away from. When people reward you before you even begin to explain yourself, you start identifying on feedback instead of the actual reflection itself. And that's why I push very hard for people who watch me to really internalize what's going on. A lot of people don't ask, why do I need this attention? What what part of me is getting fed right now? What happens if this all stops? And I think some people will even assume I must be doing something wrong. I must be doing something right if I'm getting it. People must like me for who I am. This is just who I am meant to be. And that's a dangerous one, because that will lead you down a road that you didn't expect. But but what if they like you or rather, they like you for your unexplained coping mechanisms. What if your humor is not deflection? What if your confidence is just insecurity? What if your bluntness is just really avoiding you addressing the real stuff? I believe that early success does not expose that. It just protects it. Streaming, I think streaming has become a substitute for other things and not necessarily a tool. And this is the thing that I've noticed that people have gotten defensive of when I've had conversations with them. But it does, in fact, it matters. It really does. For some people, streaming becomes the substitute for therapy, for community, because not everybody has a community around them in real world. They use it for a sense of purpose, a sense of identity, a sense of self-work. Not intentionally even, not maliciously. Streamers streaming can feel like progress. It can feel like it. You can feel like you're finally being seen. You can feel validated. You can feel useful. People love to feel useful. But none of that forces you to confront why you needed it so badly in the damn first place. So when some pressures increase, money, growth, expectations, it just gets louder. That feeling, that sound gets louder in your head. Why people say things like, you've changed. I think most streamers didn't change, but instead they scaled. Let's put it that way. And the problem with scaling is that it reveals cracks. When some people say, you know, you wasn't always like this before. They weren't always like this before. That to me, that usually signifies that they're saying this side of them wasn't rewarding yet. This behavior didn't have leverage yet. It didn't have legs to really stand on yet. The stakes that they took to change up was too risky. Early streams are forgiving. Later streams are heavily demanding. And your foundation is built on them. It's built on being liked. It's been built on being needed. It's built on being praised. It's built on being agreed with. And the growth of it doesn't strengthen you. You can only strengthen you because if you're not paying attention, you can in fact become destabilized. And I think that's a lot of part that the audience doesn't want to hear. Some people are not fooled, but there are others who absolutely are. To those who are not fooled, those are the people I think that you need to have the most. But you need to make determinations about who these people actually are, because these are the people who will tell you when they see early red flags, they see flaws, when they notice the subtle little things that are happening. Oh, appreciate you, because it feels good to believe in someone, and believing is easier than watching critically. So when something eventually blows up, people say, I can't believe that this happened. But deep down, most people felt this coming. I think a lot of people they just don't want it to be right. And why does this segment matter, right? I think it matters because good intentions don't generate great outcomes. They don't protect against pressure. They don't override some people's incentives. They don't replace self-awareness. They just get you in the door. And if you walk through the door, right, without any sense of structures, no boundaries, and no sense of reflection, I think every room around you that you try to walk into will collapse. That's my personal opinion on it. That's the way how I see it. Now, I could be wrong. Absolutely. And that's why I just want to know what people think about it. So once again, drop in a link in the chat. Tell me what exactly you believe might be the perspective on, quite frankly, streamers, and whether they are able to actually, well, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say streamers, whether streamers have good intention, especially in the era that we are in today. Because I think a lot of people don't look for streamers to have good intentions. I don't think they like to look at a lot of people in a favorable light. For me, I think that a lot of people are just so used to other factors taking place, like the negativity. And this is why I like the fact that even Rick was saying, like, hey, negativity sells. To me, I'm like, yeah, but to me, news is just news. How we reflect on it matters more. I think we look more for people to be the types of creators that create controversy than those who are just being structured. But that's my personal opinion on it. So I want to get into the question that's in my mind for that. Have you ever confused basically praise with being right? I have. I know people have said a lot of, nice things, but I think a lot of people think of that as being right rather than just receiving praise for them. For instance, like you can just receive praise for just having the courage to actually say something. That doesn't mean that the fact that the thing that you said was actually the right thing to say, or in the moment was the right thing to say. Maybe, maybe they're just praising you for actually taking the time to defend yourself. That doesn't mean that just because you defended yourself, you are right. I think a lot of us give ourselves more credit than what was actually needed. And it's something to consider. Like I'm just thinking about that. Like a lot of people will just like, yeah, I'm right. Because a great example is streamers do this, right? I'm right. Look how many people are saying that, like they're saying, like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Look how many fire emojis I got. Yeah, I'm obviously I must be right. And that's not necessarily true. And I guess another question is in my mind because they might take that rhetoric and fire up new streams or go other places because of that sense of validation. So the question is, do good intentions excuse later behavior? Because who you are to be, you are now becoming. And that's just the question that really goes through my head. All right, let me move into my next segment, which is the incentives. So incentives change what survives. Now, for this segment, before we go any further, I want to clear up something. because this is where people usually do a little bit more or do a little bit too more instead of being very simple. They oversimplify the problem itself. We like to say money corrupts people or fame ruins people. And this sounds clean. It sounds moral. It sounds like it's a warning. But I don't think it's accurate. Money doesn't corrupt people. Fame doesn't corrupt people. Streaming doesn't corrupt people. But I do think it incentivizes the select. Can it do it? Absolutely. I don't think it happens for the majority. I think people don't reach into their soul and they flip a freaking switch. I think they get rewarded certain behaviors and they starve others. And I think that's really what it is. I mean, think about it for a second. If being calm, if being thoughtful and trying to be nuanced gets you ignored, but being loud, trying to be certain, being inflammatory, get you clipped, get you shared, get you funded, what do you think grows? Not because the person suddenly became evil, but I think it's because the system keeps streamers trapped from being who they actually should be. And instead, they should say, whatever that thing you just did, do more of that. Streaming doesn't ask you who you want to be. It only asks, what are you willing to repeat? And I don't think that makes people evil. But it does make the environment something you need to be very suspicious about. Drama travels faster than nuance. Certainty gets rewarded way more than honesty. This is why they tell people to double down even if you're wrong, which is a terrible thing to bring into the real world. Outrage monetizes better than having some restraint. And some people notice this. And some people push back. When you try to stay on purpose, you know what they say? It's boring. You get a capped access and you grow slower. But most people don't. Most people do not try to engage in this. Not because they're bad. I think because the incentives are way too loud and way too consistent. And I mean, again, I could be wrong, but I'm noticing I see a lot of it to say that there's definitely something there. And a lot of people wind up drifting because of it. They drift into areas, into spaces, into conversations that wind up being the same regular talking points, the same regular narratives. And they can't get away because that's the thing that's now considered to be profitable. They can't find themselves having any other conversations or perspective about things because it doesn't help the machine. And if you tell yourself, by the way, because you don't really have any principles, if you tell yourself, well, I'm gonna do it, but it's just one time. It's just one stream. I'm I'm basically I'm basically the same. I don't really mean it like that, but I can kind of get into that might be a problem for you. Streaming does not care about what you mean. It only cares about what you repeat. And having a reputation is about building an identity faster than what your intentions could ever be. So now you're not just saying the thing, you're known for actually doing this thing. And if you're known for doing something that's out of your character, when you choose to want to be you, your base, that very community that you built up, that very chat who's been talking are going to look at you sideways because to them, you're not that person. And then when you decide, I'm just going to be me, you know what happens, right? You're expecting, well, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be me and everybody will stick around. But you don't come off as authentic. So you lose views, you lose momentum, you lose your audience. And I think that's where the pressure of that keeps a lot of people trapped. I want to talk about different things. I want to do different kind of content. I want to lead into this. But I can't because why? That's not what the audience wants because they're used to seeing this particular thing. So why do some people resist that? And I would say most don't. I think there are streamers who resist the temptation to fall in line and do the thing that everybody else has been doing. Not because they're saints, not because they're smarter, but rather because they recognize the trap early. A lot of people will put themselves in the trap if they thought that the food that was inside the cage tastes really good. I think the people who learn to get out who learn to resist being in the actual trap early. I see you. Just hold on a moment. Who resist to be in the trap early, that they realized every audience comes with expectation. Every expectation is somehow a leash if you don't know how to manage it. And growth without any boundaries will end up turning into ownership. And a lot of people end up making bad choices. They don't stay consistent enough. They don't chase every spike. They don't leave when the content shifts. Now, I'm not talking about like moral superiority people. I'm talking about people who are going into long-term thinking. Most people don't do this. And not because they're weak, but it's because the incentives are way too loud, they're way too consistent, and they're immediate. So restraining is not something that trends. Restraint is not something that's a trend. Self-correction doesn't necessarily clip well. Saying you're sorry about something that you have not thought about and saying later is not something you get picked up for. You're known for as a positive thing. Silence doesn't pay very well. So the system quietly favors the people who can tolerate contradictions, hypocrisy, but getting a rise from a lot of stuff doesn't happen. Coming to the stage. What's going on, Denson?
Yo, what's good?
Not much. Just having a conversation about streamers, being a streamer.
It's gonna sound lame and cliche, but I'm gonna say it anyway because I don't give a fuck. But I like listening to you stream, man. You tell the truth in a way that I haven't really heard anybody else tell the truth. And I like it because I feel like I was put here to shove the truth down motherfuckers' throats. And you're better at it than I am. So I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate you actually saying that. Let me ask you a question about the segment I'm having right now. How I want to say this? Do you believe that incentives run people, or do people choose? Sorry, do you believe that incentives ruin people, or do you think it's the other way around, that people choose to be ruined?
It's a bit of a feedback loop, but I think we are run by our incentives. Especially if you zoom out and you talk about the average person. The average person has almost the entirety of their life laid out and plotted for them, and
Mhm.
they just fit into the groove. And they go, "Oh, look how nicely I fit into this groove," and then that's it.
Okay. So let's just say you're building your channels up, you're a streamer. Where would you draw where would you draw the line if growth was dependent all on basically crossing those lines?
Um, so practically,
Mhm.
I don't really cross any of the lines, and that's why no one watches my streams, and I'm boring. Um,
Okay.
if
Okay.
it you now if someone needed me for some reason, because I don't really have anything special to bring, but if that were not the case, I would sell out. I got no problem with that, It
Shit.
would just have
Oh,
to
yeah.
be
He's
worth it,
honest about it.
So I would cross all the lines if the money was right.
Okay. All right. I'm noticing this is why I've been saying to a lot of people who are watching, like a lot of people do not even a lot of people don't look at streamers and treat them like they're normal people, regardless of how their interactions are with a multitude of people. Um, to the point where I think there's so much of a negative, indoctrinated behavior that happens, especially even from your viewers, that they treat everybody this way. And I don't mean just like, well, do this and just do that or whatever. But here's a great example. You have comedians, right? They have a job to do, but you see them in the street and they say, make me laugh. That's not the way
Right.
that works. So the idea is like, well, this is what I expect from you, regardless of where I see you. And I'm just like, yeah, you got that thing wrong. And I think a
It's a
lot of
weird
streamers fall prey.
it's a weird form of quasi celebrity, it is.
It is. I can't tell you how weird it is, just for myself to have people say like, yeah, I'm really a fan of what you do. I really love watching you. And I'm just like, I appreciate that you want to have like the conversation and diverse stuff, but I don't really want a fan base. I when I do this, I literally do it for like conversations, and I understand there's a bit of growth that comes from that, or rather notoriety. But it's
Right.
not it's not to build fame, because I've seen fame ruin too many people.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, to me, if I manage to actually come up, I'm just thinking like, so what reach do I have to be able to help other people? Because the truth of the matter is, like, I didn't get here by myself. I did it by people who like to be engaged in the type of conversations and breakdowns and everything else like I do. So to me, it's a group effort. But unfortunately, even with growth, not only can your audience change, but also the creators themselves. And that's why I'm wondering, like, what are the things that change creators? Is it a matter of time? Is it a ticking time bomb? Because you can have a great intention and eventually you find yourself in some scandals, some news, some controversy, even if it wasn't intended.
So, if we don't measure these things in viewers, which I have none, I've been able to wade my way through all that shit. I've had all of it come at me. The ego challenges that come when there's like 50 to 100 people in watching your stream, the the kind of wedge it can put between you and like people you have parasocial relationships with. I've even had my scandals where like I've had viral videos about what a horrible criminal and a creep I am. Um, it's all just kind of come and gone. Now, I will say I've managed to keep my anonymity throughout it all, and that's been, you know, probably my greatest asset. I don't know, like that. I think I take a lot of things for granted because I have my anonymity, and not everybody can say that. It's a very powerful thing.
I no, here's the thing. I think that that's double edged. Like, well, like I say, double perspective. I think you being able to keep to keep your life private is a great thing. And I think a lot of people try to exercise that. The other side of that is because their life is private, they do their best to ruin other people's lives. Because why? There's no consequences. That's a problem for me. It's like
Yeah, I don't do that shit.
people that you really interact with on a regular basis, whether it's family, friends, coworkers. You don't go out of your way to be the worst of yourself. But when you're online, you choose to do so. That's
It
weird.
does help. It does help me be more denizen than denizen,
Mm,
and there's probably a shadow side to that can be ugly, but it's not quite that bad. If anything, I would take that still as a strength. I would say the sacrifice for me is I would love to have a more intimate relationship with some of the people who that you could call my audience, right? You know, I can't because I'd have to sacrifice my anonymity for that. So, like, there is, there's like a trust barrier. Yeah, I think a lot more people would listen to what I had to say if I, camped up and showed them inside what the inside of my life looks like, you know?
yeah, I be honest with you about that. I've thought a lot about that myself. Um, because I do have people, some people that they reach out to me or they just like, hey, I saw this. How you do that? How you get done? And they kind of like want the behind the scenes. Um, but I'm like, people are just so weird. I don't. Why would I want to take that risk? You know.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I just like, I'll be honest, I want to share, you know, parts of my life, or rather, it's interesting when I have conversation with people, the things that people find interesting about you. So yes, I can do content, I can do streams or whatever. But if I mention things like, hey, I was actually doing axe throwing or whatever, they're like, oh, that sounds cool. I'm like, you find that interesting? Hey, I was I went to a spa and I did an ice bath. Like, oh, can we see that? I'm like, you want to see me do an ice bath? Like,
Yeah. That
it's
shit's
weird.
real content. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also like it at the end of the day, at least for me, and I think this is true for most people, even people who just run a game show and do pure grift on their channel. At the end of the day, there's like we're really looking for some kind of authenticity. That's what we crave, especially now where it's in such small supply and everybody wants a connection, ultimately.
Yeah. I hear that. No, I don't know. I run into people that I'm never really sure who I'm really talking to. Which
Yeah.
is why I think consistency is king. So I'm just gonna take you as to how I see you to be consistently, you know. And then there's some people that they're like, hey, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of that. I'm like, yeah, but you built your foundation on it. So now it seems like you're betraying your audience. What and I think most people, the majority, I think most people who start off as content creators are typically themselves. They don't go into quote the business of being a character. I just somehow think that it devolves into that over time because of pressures. That's just the way how I see it,
Yeah,
based on what
and
I've been looking at.
it it's a lot about other people too, which is a weird thing that you might not know if you've never like w- worked in the celebrity industry or had a YouTube channel or been in the public sphere. Like other people come out of the woodwork ready to find that alternate you, the disingenuous you, and to foster it, right? To really help it grow and to, it's a strange thing.
There are people who are most likely who are more than likely more interested in your destructive nature than anything else, or just looking for that time to see like, look, this person's not as great as you think that they are. Not that they think of themselves that way.
And they will carry you on their shoulders to your own destruction,
There
like
you
you're a
go.
hero.
You go. We're more interested in seeing people fall than rise. I mean, yeah. Oh yeah, you're an underdog. Can't wait. Congratulations. Now I need to take you down. It's wild. Like you were there with me. Like we running together. It's like, yeah, but you crossed the finish line. I didn't. So now I'm your ops.
Well, we're here at the finish line together, but all your friends and the people who helped you get there are gone. And it's
Yeah.
just me now, you know.
It's a very strange bar to be at. When you want, it's like when you're there, you're thinking of everybody who's helped you get there, and you raise a toast, and you look around, and all those people are gone. So you're toasting to them, but you're drinking by yourself.
Yeah.
That's a heavy bar. It's a heavy bar.
Yes, I enjoyed streaming back when I had like 20 people in the chat and I could talk about whatever I wanted to. And people were actually into the topic. And that was that. And it was just that simple. But YouTube did not like what I talked about. So that became a problem.
Yeah, I've been learning about that. I've been learning about that for a while, but I think for me, it's a worthy goal to stay in rather than just pick the things that are most trending. Because honestly, like the ideal that the majority of people, especially for those who react to stuff, they are, and again, I'm not dissing them for it, but the the saying is the same. You're an ambulance chaser. It's nothing wrong with it, especially if people want to see your perspective on it because you carry a particular zest, flair for putting out stuff. But keep in mind, they can also get the same perspective from so many other people. But the things that
Yeah.
affect people on a normal basis, real conversations, these are the things that are not promoted.
Yeah.
And I think there should be more for people who want to bring forth variety of that. And unfortunately, that's just not the way how the algorithm, I'll just put it that way, is set up for it. But also, it's also the way how your audience is not set up for it. Because sometimes people come to you based on where they saw you at, not exactly for what you've done on your own.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It's a big thing that becomes a hindrance.
Yeah. I tried to like carry a brand around with me as I promoted my channel, you know. Um, but ultimately, all my subs came from appearances in other places, in other people's spaces.
Correct.
None of it came from anything that I did. I mean, except, like there's a level of creativity. Obviously, if I'm on another panel, it's my opinions. The reason why people are subbing to me is because they like what I have to say. But it's still that other person's platform, that other person's, you know, creative outlet.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It's a little unfortunate, but it's true. And I think that there is a space for growth for that. But I think it takes people who want to be content creators or people who already are, it takes enough of them pushing back against that system. And unfortunately, when the system is trying to reward you, or if you have examples of people who have made a normal thing out of it, made a success out of it, it's a hard thing to push against. Because a lot of people started off watching content not for just simply entertainment. They were actually getting into it for information.
Yeah.
And I think we've lost a lot of that. And information comes in so many various forms, but not unfortunately, but so does content.
Well, the people who are in this particular space, I've heard it called the panelverse or whatever, and who came with information and real content, it's been washed out with whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Drama or whatever word you want to put on it. But it's still out there, just not in this so-called community. And you can see, that's what pushes the algorithm. Like if you put out videos every week about the same thing, and your videos have useful information that people can act on or use in their everyday lives. Those YouTubers are still doing very well, right? There's just none of them in our circles.
Yeah,
And the ones who are in our circles, they don't do their stuff. They don't do their thing anymore. You know, they've been absorbed by the Panelverse.
unfortunately. And that's another thing. If you are an inspiring content creator who, let's just say you happen to be in this space, you don't need to bend the knee. Keep doing your thing. Because there are people who are really just interested in just who you are and what you do and not necessarily who you align yourself next to. That's my personal opinion though. And I think that's the sentiment that you've been stating as well.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Oh, Denizen, thank you, man. I'm gonna get to the mid part of our show. Just I'll do a little bit of talking with the chat. So if you don't mind, I'll drop you down, and I'm gonna when I get into the next segment after that, I will open up the panel again to see who wants to come up or not. But
Cool.
thanks for stopping by.
Peace.
All right. All right. So this is a bit of a low key part of a job. I have some other stuff I'm working on, but apparently it's not working. It's always a building and process stuff. I do want to give already thanks to the first person already here, who already came up with a super chat. Thank you, Rick, as well. He said exchange information on the stage, whew, but actors only see applause and the boos. He's absolutely correct about that one. It's like, look, we'll see you in the next performance. So be fantastic. Yeah, yeah. Who knows it's going to be fantastic or not? Because you're not judged. You're not always being judged on your consistency, but rather you're being judged on how many views or how epic and awesome it is. And on the rise, you're not always going to be great. It's you don't win a championship. You have to do all the work first. You have to be in practice. So I do agree with that. Hey, we got other people that walked into the building. Let's see. Lex is in here. What's going on, Lex? We got oh, you're doing on the kick side. What's going on? I appreciate you being here. Yes. And then like I said we have Dennis in the building. Crab, Root Mud Crab is in here. What's going on? GT is in the building. Han, Shawnery. What's going on, my guy? How you been? It's been a while. It has been a while. And of course, for anyone that walks into the building, say what's up to everybody in the chat. This is the first episode back after basically a 6-month hiatus for Opinionated. So yeah, while I've been doing other content, it's going to be very interesting to try to get back into the flow of a lot of stuff going on. And then of course, everybody getting back into what the actual routines going forward. So I do appreciate that from a lot of you guys. Give me a quick moment, and I'll be right back with a lot of you guys. But I just got to step away for a quick moment. All right, so we're gonna do this real quick, and I'll get back to you.
No signal flare, I adjust the alignment. Room settle in when I move in silence. No need to state it, the work is evident. Steps stay measured, the path stays deliberate. Pressure stays useful, it sharpens the view. Every turn locked, every move see through. Didn't rush moments, I built with intent. Now time moves quieter everywhere I step. Stillness with for all opens, breath held light, eyes focused, no rush. No resistance, tick stay steady, that's the distance. Not chasing the fame, it'll freeze what's molten. Break open the silence, keep the truth ice coated. No clock to punch in, I'm the one who dictates. Every second's a fuse, Watch the skyline detonate. Years move forward, but the pace stays calm. Learn when to hold and when to move on. Every win quiet, every loss informs. Nothing gets wasted, it just transforms. They look for moments, I look for shape. Long view thinking, room to create. No fear in the mirror, no road to outgrow. This wasn't a peak, it was room to grow. No countdowns, no finish lines, just motion. Hands on my line. No sudden turns, I'm steady with angles. Lines stay clean even under the tangle. I don't chase clarity, I let it ride. Built this momentum by staying alive. Every day stacks small, but it's
I really don't like when I'm trying to make programs work and they look really good the way how they go through, but then they're just not working out the way you want them to. So of course I've got some work still ahead. All right. I also see there's KM in here with the 4.99. So I appreciate you, KM. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your wrestler. The fact that you stay you instead of following the crowd. I appreciate that. It's still a lonely road. It's a lonely road. Sometimes you just like you want someone to walk next to you, but you realize you got to do it alone. I am very much a person who's afraid of the group, especially when the group might be walking the group might be walking in the wrong direction. You ever see some of those social experiments? You know that the answer is 2, but everybody else says 4. So they won't look like they're crazy, also say 4. It's difficult to look at everybody else say 4, and you're like, it's 2 though, and they go like, it's 4, it's 2. It takes a lot of energy to be the odd person out, but I appreciate you. All right, all right. So, by the way, one of the things that we are going to be doing going forward in the future as well, guys, is that, like I said, we will be implementing panels from time to time, but the idea is to also have a lot of conversations about the actual topic in between. There are going to be a bit of shifts, but we're gonna build into that over when time goes by. We first episode in, lots of stuff got to get tied in. A lot of people got to get reactivated with how we have the actual shows. But a reminder to you guys that we will uh do shows where we're having conversations. We will have in between people in between segments, as well as we will have an open panel should the room should the room feel like it's something that needs to be done. I do encourage people to have a lot of great ideas when they're actually paying attention to the actual topic. And I do encourage new people who have never been online before to feel free to actually engage in actual topics when the link is dropped. So don't feel that you need to. You don't even necessarily need to be um, on camera, but we will have some shows in the future where maybe it's special. And I think those particular ones you will see people on camera because they're very special and very native to the people that we're going to have for those particular streams. But to the next guy going in here, we got Resto Chesto in the building, as well as Locksmith Jeremy. Jeez, both guys came in here. Resto came in here with the 20 right off the bat. And he gave 1 cent, That's probably for UKM. He gave the 1 cent. So he gave in the 1 cent. He says, a little busy, so I can't hit the panel for the anticipated opinionated. Appreciate that. But he wants to show his support anyway, so I salute you. Thank you for that. And then, of course, Locksmith Jeremy in the building. He says, don't call me a dumb KM. Okay. All right. Crazy. All right. So, like I said, I do encourage people that when we have up, we try to actually have the conversations because I think a lot will unfold for them. And as well, at some point, can't say when, but it will most likely go on the community post where we will have a schedule as to the days that we are going to be doing the different show types that happens over on the Resla Channel. So just put that out there for you guys. But of course, all your acknowledgments or all your posts, your actual contributions, all your acknowledgments. I do appreciate them, and everything always goes back into the channel. Even though there are going to be times where I just need to ignore disrespect. I'm just going to keep it a buck with you. We got to keep the stream rather clean, but also watchable. All right, so let's get into my fourth segment, and what I have up here for it is exposure versus actual corruption. And I think I need to find it because I think I put it away. Yep, I did put away my points. Hold up. I have my points that I wanted to try to think about to get into, but looks like my points. Oh, this is what happened when you have a lot of stuff in your notions, just ideals. Here we go. Go. Let's see. All right. So exposure versus actual corruption. And remember, the theme that we're on today, in case you didn't know, are streamers good people? So in this one, I'm really talking about the context of I'm starting to get into the point where does streaming change people, or does it actually stop them? It doesn't actually stop protecting them. That's really important. I'm thinking about that right now, because I want to spend like some real time here, because I think this is where most conversations about streamers go wrong. People love the ideal that streaming changes people. You know, oh, the fame happened, flips. Oh, the switch up is real. You know, people do the whole that money must have done something mysteriously to the brain. And I don't buy that. I think streaming just removes the things that are used to keep people safe, but people also safe from themselves, to put it that way. Streaming doesn't change people. It does remove the ability to hide, however. In real life, you can go quickly and quietly wherever you want to go. Streaming forces you to evolve with everybody staring at you. You know, um, some people integrate, some people interrogate, but for the most part, people are gonna make mistakes when they're as a streamer. When they lose views or viewers instead of being a liar. And for some reason, that tends to slow things down. Most people don't do this as a streamer. Instead, they defend, they rationalize, and I will even say that when the time comes later down the line, they rewrite history. And this is what I kind of want to explore in this segment. Why people grow, why people growth or public growth. I said people growth. I said that twice in my head. I said public twice, and I still said the word people. That's crazy. Why public growth is rare, and why it's actually so hard to get around. Because people don't really let you get away with stuff as much as you want to get away with stuff, right? But at the same time, the things that you should be held accountable for, that you're hoping your community will hold you accountable for, it's like, you just let me do that? You just let me get away with that? Sometimes, like, now I don't even really want to check myself because I found it, but no one told me anything. You know, I think the core thing, the core distinction that people need to go through is the corruption. And by the way, just so we don't try to get that a little bit twisted, I'm going to give you what my idea of it is. And whether you agree or not, we can get into that. You don't need to agree. I just want to frame it so that we can have an understanding. And if you have it differently, then we can go through that later. So corruption, right? For me, corruption implies something external something added, something bad. Rather, exposure implies something internal that finally had nowhere to hide. So, to me, more of what I see isn't corruption when it comes to being out here. The thing that flips on a lot of people, it's actually exposure. People always looking to expose. How many content and clips and thumbnails we see exposed, exposed, exposed. You don't really hear about they change, they're corrupt. What you see exposed all over the place because these are the trigger points that get people to want to look. Everybody's trying to be exposed. Streaming doesn't inject new flaws into people. If anything, it removes, I want to say privacy. It removes the distance between you and other people. I want to say it removes excuses for some people. And I think it also removes time to process things quietly because you don't really get the time because you're spending hours and hours in a public view. In real life, when you mess things up, you can go somewhere and go chill for a bit. You can change your environment. You can learn new things. You can learn new things without even having witnesses nearby, something that's very difficult for streaming. You can actually outgrow something without even needing to explain it to other people. But streaming takes that away. Every phase of your time online is being documented. Every contradiction is being clipped. Every unfinished version of you sticks around longer than it should. And that's not inherently evil, but it is stressful, especially the younger that you are. And this is why public growth is just so difficult. I mean, let's be honest. Most people aren't built to grow in public. It looks like it's being normalized, but most people are just not built for it. Not because they're weak, but because growth is messy. Think about all the things that come along with having growth. You have to admit when you're wrong. How many streamers can we say want to admit when they're wrong? Especially in this space. The space I become adjacent to. Let's talk about some other things in growth. Letting things go. Not looking for every reason to hold on to a grudge. How about that one? How about actually taking time to sit and reflect because you actually are confused or you heard a point that challenges something that you've actually gone through? What about the fact of losing people who like the older version of you? Because so many people don't want you to evolve. Now, add an audience on top of that. People who are going to remember all of your old takes. People who feel entitled to consistency. They don't want you to take any time off. Not that you don't need it for yourself or for your family or new things changing your life, but they need you to be consistent. Like they're doing your job as you being the person who's always going to be on it. People who interpret change as a form of betrayal. You changed. I don't like you now. People who weaponize screenshots instead of the actual context. People who weaponize clips instead of the actual context. So what do most people do? Because they don't integrate, but rather they defend. They don't reflect on what took place. Instead, they rationalize. It is very difficult for people online just to say, I don't know. It's one thing to say that they didn't know about something and now they have, but to hear something and then say, I don't know. As if somehow saying I don't know doesn't also say, or could also say, I'm going to have to take some time to think about that. There are people who will say, you didn't know that? I'm like, I don't know. And in their mind, how can you not know that? Why? What makes a person believe, another person believe that everybody should know what's in your head? As if everybody's curious about La Boo Boo. As if everybody's interested in fossils and ambers. As if everybody gives a shit about dumpster diving. Or worse, they don't even believe you. They say you're lying. There's no way you're lying. If you're trying to figure out something, if you're analyzing and you're trying to construct something going on it, there are people who will try to distract you or pigeonhole you to a thought that hasn't even formed yet. Because ego hates being seen in mid-construction. If I need time to think about something, other people will try to rush you. Now, let's talk about the people who survive exposure, right? There are streamers who can learn to survive at this stage. They're not perfect. They're not clean. They're not controversy free. But they do something that could be considered rare. They integrate. They say things like, yeah, that was wrong. Yeah, I didn't handle that well. I grew, and I know that cost me people. They don't lie and rewrite history. They don't demand forgiveness. They don't turn accountability into persecution. They accept their losses along with the growth. But that's not morality. To me, that's maturity. Other people will try to hold you to every individual moral and not exactly what the context grants. For some reason, a lot of people, especially in online, especially in like your community, want to be the person who drags you out into the square and stone you, right? Knowing very well that they've done worse. There are people that there are people who go so far and amplify just because they just don't want to have the perception of you taking a loss, that they will force you off the cliff of being wrong. If you want to take something about it, they go, no, 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 no. Go do this, go do that. No, 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 no. Don't admit to anything. And I'm like, you screwed up. You absolutely screwed up by doing that. Appreciate you, Rug. What's wrong with a person, especially if they're the ones who taken the brunt of the context and the characteristics and the conversations or situation, and them reflecting on it to see if they can put themselves in an optimal position? Why do most people fail this test? I think most people fail the ridicule. They fail the times of exposure because they confuse being understood with being safe. I I think they want growth without friction, you know? I think they want accountability without discomfort. But you can't have change without a bit of loss. Streaming doesn't allow that, however. Because if you make any changes, you're essentially doing it publicly, especially with the aspect of now IRLs, because you don't ever have the time to really do self-reflection because people will even watch you when you sleep, when you're eating with family, when you're walking your dog, when you're going to work, if you go to work. If you change publicly, you lose supporters who already like the old you. You gain critics who never trusted you anyway. You live in the between. You live in you live somehow between how you are and how you think and how that fares out. There is something dangerous about being in the endless now. So instead of evolving, people just start picking up bad habits and worse, they calcify. They lock that shit down. It only gets hardened. It's a bad habit that's grown and fed over time. And then people wind up locking themselves in that the persona. By the way, this is how also when you look for people that just want to be polarizing and controversial figures, they lock themselves into that persona. They harden their narratives or their opinions. They double down. Not because that they're right, but because retreat feels like death. That's also not corruption, it's fear. And why I'm asking why does this hit so close to home? I think this hits a lot of people very center like because it's a part that you can't really avoid. If streaming is exposing, revealing things about people, then the uncomfortable, the uncomfortable things that happen that follow up are going to be looked at things that are going to be considered obvious. What would prolonging attention expose you to? I think if you're did I say that right? No, I'm thinking about it right now. What would prolong attention expose you? Mm, no, I'm gonna ask myself that. What would prolong attention expose in me? Let me just say that. I think thousands of people reacting to my worst day would be something I'm not really interested in. People tying me to consistency and money and revenue, clips that are preventing me from growing because it only wants to highlight my dumbest moments, an audience rewarding me for only being in confrontation with other people. I think these are flaws. And there are people who will double down on that because of money and insecurities and ego and the need for control. And this is the most important part, the fear of no longer being relevant. That question, that question. Honestly, the question isn't why people get so defensive about themselves and about these kind of situations. But to me, deep down, I think people just want to know because most of us would not look great under that kind of light. And I said this to even earlier with Brick. There are a lot of people who just want to see you broken and destitute because it makes them feel better about themselves. I mean, look at it this way. There are streamers that when they meet somebody online, the community cheers. Oh my God. Imagine this. Wrestler. Oh my God, wrestler. Because there were examples that's all over the internet. So many examples. Wrestler. Oh my God, I think you should go out with so and so. She's digging you, man. Yeah, yeah. You guys look cute, a couple, everything, blah, blah, blah. You make that work. Now you're a couple. People go, oh my God, you guys look so good together. You're so great together. Oh, the chemistry is so nice. And after about 2 months, your community are trying to get you broken up because you going out with her. Here goes all the people who clipped. There go people who's doing deep dives. There's the people who's doing deep fakes. There's the people that's doing everything in the world as to why you should no longer be with them after trying to hype you up to get with them. Why? They're building you up for happiness so they can destroy you so that you can be miserable so they can feel better about themselves. Because you were okay when you were single. Now I want to get him hyped and happy because he's found someone, and now I want to rip it all away so I can feel better. Because why? I'm not gonna treat them like they're a person. Because I wouldn't do that to my family. I wouldn't do that to my daughter or my son. I wouldn't do that to my brother. But to someone who I consistently watch, sure, I'm gonna do that to them. Put that together for yourself. What does that signify? How does that help? And come on now. Some of you, whether you want to be or not, some of you might have been that person. I'm not even saying you still are. Some of you might have been that person. To think about it. I asked myself a question or rather, I was asking Denizen the question when I was asking myself. And I'm thinking that streaming doesn't ruin people, but rather it removes the places where people can hide. And I was saying that before. And the things that I'm always wondering what are the things that you're learning afterward and what that tells you about everything. How does that come up? When you're being a streamer, how exactly does that translate into other areas of your life? Because with the consistency, with the way how people are around you, how does that help you in your growth? Or are you just being subjected to a lot of other people? I'm also thinking, what are the flaws that would be provided, or rather, that would show visibility in my life that would also, quote, expose me? This is what I was kind of saying with Denizen. You know, being anonymous is great when you can keep it on your side. But like when you really have a community that and people that you like, You don't really have a problem showing your life, but unfortunately, not everybody, and I would say even most of your community, is not very supportive of you. You drop your guard for a little bit, or you show them something you want, and instead of them saying, "Oh my gosh, you have that. Oh my gosh, you're looking at that. Oh my gosh, you live here. Oh my," it's, how can I take that from them? How can I ruin them for them? Or, "Oh, you think you're something because you have," I could have never mentioned it to you. Either you get judged for what you have, or you get judged for what you don't have. Think about it. So why would you want to share if you will be judged regardless? And yet there's so many people that will want to tear you down. I've stated this before already when it came to the space, right? How many people hate watch? If there are people, there are creators of shows that I don't like, I don't watch them. I don't subscribe. I don't subscribe and then hit the notification bell or hit no, don't notify me. I don't subscribe. I don't want them in my feed. I'm not watching them. And yet there are people who travel from panel to panel to channel to channel to show just to talk shit. And I'm like, think about what you could be doing with your life. Think about what you could be doing with your time. And you spend it on, let's just be honest, you don't even have like a whole folder of people that you just dislike. Let's just be honest, you got one or two people, and you'd say everywhere you go how much you hate them, but you spend all your waking time watching them when you get that notification. You spend all your time watching them, watching their face. I hate your dumb face. Hold up, I gotta go get some popcorn. How does that make sense? I fucking can't stand you, but I can't watch you if my laptop's over here. So, I'm gonna I'm gonna get my phone so I can go to the bathroom and hate watch you. You know what? You're a piece of shit. Oh, you're so much of a piece of shit. I'm gonna put that in a $10 fucking donation. You're a piece of shit. $10 to you, sir, just to tell you you're a piece of shit. I hate you every time you get online. I watch every hour that you're online. I just want to let you know how much I hate you. And if you've been one of these people, you should think about what's going on in your own life. You should at least consider how you spend your time. You could do whatever you want to do with your time. You can do whatever you want to do with your time. Personally. Personally. But I don't think you should blame other people for the actions that you take. So let me ask questions to you guys. Like, should should an audience should audiences allow creators to outgrow their past? What do you guys think? Should an audience allow their creators to outgrow their past mistakes? Question for you guys. I got a couple of questions for you guys. That's one of them. Because I see more accountability holding, like how people do, like Kevin Hart for the Oscars and shit like that. Should an audience allow creators to outgrow their past mistakes? You said maybe, depends, absolutely. People change. Creators are people. Hate watch, unfortunately. Many too. All right. Let me ask you another question. Can someone Can someone change or evolve publicly without losing credibility? Think about it. You're watching these people on a regular basis. Maybe you're watching someone who goes live every day. Can someone change or evolve publicly without losing their credibility? Because I'm not sure that they can. Rick, you say yes. You know, it's the first person I'm thinking about again, right? I'm thinking about Mr. Beast. And by the way, we can just go to many examples, not even him, but he's the first one that crossed my mind. Think of the people that you meet in this space. Because they're all human. You don't need to be a big content creator. Just someone that you watch for long enough to say that you kind of like them, you kind of know them, and then you see how they get into it with other people, how they move, how they change, who they partner with, conversations or positions that they never defended that you know their position in, but they didn't defend it when it was challenged. Like, can people change and evolve publicly without losing their sense of credibility? Just something to think about. And we're gonna get into the last segment, the final segment. And the final segment is going to be honestly addressing you guys, the audience. The audience is part of the actual system that also hinders a lot of people. You guys contribute just as much to the progressing disease. I know that's going to be it's a hard hitter for you because this is this is usually where people get very defensive, and I think a lot of people are going to start checking out. Any conversation about streamers that ignores the audience, to me, is an incomplete conversation. And if you're saying, oh, no, wrestler, here's what I'm going to tell you right now. How many times have I said when I have conversations with people, I'm always trying to be aware of who? The audience. Any conversation about streamers that ignores conveniently the audience is already an incomplete conversation. And there are people who are not going to agree with that statement. It's not considered to be unfair. It's just incomplete. Because streaming doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not a diary. It's not a feedback loop. It's a reason for it. Streamers don't just do things. Those things get rewarded. Sometimes they're punished. Sometimes they're ignored. Sometimes they're funded. And then most often they get repeated. And over time, a pattern is formed. A behavior is formed. A thought process is locked in. So if we're talking about whether streamers are good people, we have to talk about the environment that they operate within. And the audience is a massive part of that environment. Not the whole thing, but it's a big part. Support is not passive. And I think this is the first misconception that needs to die. Because a lot of people talk about support like it's neutral. Like watching, donating, subscribing, clipping, like none of that means anything, because it does. Support is reinforced. What you watch longer gets encouraged. What you donate to gets repeated. What you clip gets amplified. Also, what you defend gets normalized. And that doesn't make the audience evil. Doesn't make them bad. It does signify that they are themselves influencer. And influence without some sort of reflection can only create problems. Why I just watch this thing, this person, it's not a comforting lie. Because I just watch them because, you know, I'm not responsible for what they do. It's just entertainment. That's comforting, but it's not accurate. Because streaming platforms do not reward morality. They reward engagement. And engagement doesn't care why you're watching. Only that you are there. Hate watching still counts. Outrage still boosts up the algorithm. Mockery still spreads. So when someone says, I don't support them, I just watch the clips, what they're really saying to me is, I don't like the behavior, but I'm still going to feed the machine. That contradiction is where the whole system to me breaks down. Why is it that we ignore the red flags when we like someone? What is this part that somehow nobody enjoys looking at? I think this is it. Like when we like a creator, right? When we like a creator, we explain away all kinds of shit, all kind of things we wouldn't tolerate from anyone that we don't like. But I've had to really think about that, and that made me walk away from a lot of people. That made me unsubscribe or like no notification from a lot of people. I did a lot of moves, a lot of moving around silently last year. And then some people say things like, well, that's just how they are. They didn't mean it like that. You're taking things out of context. I got a lot of that one. They're being like this, but they've helped a lot of people though. And maybe all of that is true. Maybe it is. But patterns don't disappear because someone helped you once. Good moments don't cancel out harmful ones. I think they just coexist. You saying they do more good than harm doesn't erase the harm that they've done. And the more emotionally invested I realize I've seen some people feel, the harder it becomes for them to see clearly. And I'm not trying, I wouldn't call them stupid for doing so. It's not stupidity, but it is a bit of loyalty that doesn't really have a lot of discernment behind it. And I think this is the part where we start falling apart on the whole how we treat creators, because we have this thing where we need to look at entertainment versus responsibility. And here's where things get iffy, because streaming is entertainment. End of the day, it's not all about making laughs. It's not all about comedy, not all about jokes. It's not all about that. Entertainment is entertainment. Entertainment does not mean only what you like. Other people find things humorous or intellectual or whatever. There are people who never like to watch horror films, and there are people who do. There are people who like documentaries and people who don't. Entertainment. But when entertainment consistently comes from meltdowns, humiliation, exploitation, manufactured conflict, like narratives and rumors, emotional instability. Oh, the breakdown. They break down. I'm not talking about crash outs. I'm talking about breakdown. We can't pretend that there's no cost. If most entertaining versions of someone is their worst version, and if we keep rewarding them for that version, come on now. How is this great? And at some point, we have to admit, as the audience, we help shape the outcome. And and this is where I'll get into the whole thing that people love to talk about in these space. And I'm gonna call it a parasocial trap. Because people don't like talking about attachment. Come on, folks. We always get into behavior. People don't want to talk about the attachments. The audience don't just watch creators. They form relationships in their heads about the creators. Whether they feel like it's gratitude or hate or loyalty or protection or identification. So when a creator gets criticized, it feels personal to some people. Not because the criticism is unfair, but I would say it threatens something that the audience, that the viewer is emotionally invested in. That's when defense, in my opinion, turns into denial. And denial is powerful because it convinces people that accountability is persecution and consequences are betrayal. You don't get to act as if you're surprised forever. You don't get to be shocked every time something implodes if the warning signs were always there. Especially if you have been rewarding them along the way. If you are part of the people who escalate conflict, if you're the people who never show corrections, if you are the people who frame all criticism as hate, if you're one of those people who consistently plays the victim, if you're one of the people who gets funded more when you get messy, this is expected. It's not random at that point. The outcomes are there. And saying, I didn't expect that to happen, stops being honest after the 5th time. I'm just saying. So it makes me think about what exactly is a healthy audience. And what exactly does a healthy audience do? I don't think it's hopeless. I'm pretty sure there's someone out there that has a healthy audience. But in my mind, if I'm thinking about what a healthy audience does and what they look like, I think they would leave instead of hate watch. For one, they don't fund behavior that they don't respect. I don't think that they will allow creators to change without demanding. Sorry, I don't think they will allow creators to change who they are without demanding the old version. They need a reason as to why they're changing. I don't think that they would treat having access as entitlement. There are people that believe that they should have access to a creator simply because they put up money. Don't confuse also support with ownership. I think that these people would understand something very critical. That support is power. And power comes with responsibility, whether you ask for it or not. And this is the kind of things that make people uncomfortable. Because it's easier to judge a streamer than to examine your own participation in that. It's easier to say, oh shit, they fell off, than ask, but I've been rewarding them. Was that right? Because if we're going to be honest, under the same conditions, most people would make compromises too. They will make different compromises, but compromises nonetheless. That's what I'm thinking about that. But I wanted to get that out there, especially for you guys to know, to think about what your positions are that are in this as well. With that being said, link is going to go in the chat. What are your thoughts? I'm talking about exposure versus corruption, because a lot of people don't understand that exposure is worse. For streamers have turned out to be worse than corruption. And that also the audience, you guys are also a part of the very system that you judge streamers for. You're a part of it. I think a lot of people don't want to look at it that way. Now, I'm not saying the audience is to blame for everything, but I am saying that you're not invisible. Streaming is a system. Creators are one part, the platform's the other part, and the audience is the third part. and systems produce outcomes. So if we want better outcomes, we can't keep pretending that we're just spectators, because spectators can still shape the game. You're not innocent. You're damn for sure not vulnerable. I mean, think about it this way. Is it typically the streamer that goes around doxing other people? Or is it the audience that goes around searching up information to give to the streamer? Is it the streamer that goes around and heckles other content creators? Or is it typically that streamer's community that goes around doing that stuff? I'm telling you to hold your own nuts. You're just as guilty. You're not innocent. I know I've never been the type. I've never gone to other people's channels and try to sit there and say, well, what you did on somebody else, or hey, you over here too? Well, I'm gonna run you off of here too. I've never done it. It's just not that deep. I'm gonna chase you wherever you go. Sounds like hate watching and stalking to me. And it also sounds like harassing. I've never done it. It's just not that serious. There's a whole planet out there. And it is what it is. You're not meant to like everybody, but also not everybody's going to like you. Look at that. Look. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. He went back. He's like, hey, round 2 on it. Round 2. What's good, Rick? Back in the
What's up, man?
He said, coming back from the left side of the stage. Hey, I'm back.
Yeah, man. It's a lot of good stuff tonight, man. A lot of nuggets.
Well, we'll see if they nuggets. You know, not everybody likes nuggets. That's what they get mad when they flush them.
True.
Anyway.
I don't like McDonald's personally.
Neither do I. So, what is your thought? Let's cover some of the points first, because I know I said a lot. I kind of like combined 2 segments at once. So let's go back to first exposure versus corruption, because I think a lot of people look at streamers and try to say that, like, well, they're corrupted because they change over time. When the truth of the matter is that they're constantly in the limelight, but also they're exposed. They're exposing themselves. They're exposed. Wow, pause. They're exposing, but they're like exposing their lives, and that also can be things that can become detrimental. People ask for these things, but they're also not responsible with it. So if I'm asking for more of your life, what I shouldn't be doing is then trying to use what I asked you for as ammunition.
Yeah, no, this is a good point. You know, the expectation of growth, because, you know, you're pointing out flaws and then coming back later and then using those flaws against said person. It's not a good quality for someone who, is claiming intentions for that person to you know, hey, I want you to change these things, but then later I'm going to hold it against you.
I agree. So one of the things I was saying about streaming that a lot of people don't think about, and I'm happy that even like Denizen said, and I know you've been a person who's like this as well, is that there are a lot of things that can get revealed about you, mainly through your actions as being a streamer. But it's very important when you learn to keep a distance or keep your privacy. But it's also important for that when you're online and you're doing things, you don't make excuses. And I think for a lot, that gets lost on both sides, on the audience, on the platforms, because God forbid the platforms will say we have X, Y, and Z. You must stick to that. And then even they don't freaking stay to it.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to use the word balance because balance isn't the right word. You know, so just being like living a normal life, as before someone who's been sort of in the limelight and that sort of thing. You're going through your life, and it's kind of like a river. You've got twists, turns. You got to deal with the rapids. You got a nice smooth sail in certain aspects, and then certain places you actually have to get out of the river and carry the boat. And people are expecting that that river's always going to be, smooth sailing, or that it's always going to be that rapid, or that they're always going to see you carrying that boat. One of those positions, or some other wild position that, you said it, people get used to those things that they constantly see you doing, or people have pointed you out. It's gotten clipped. But then it's clipped out of context, because that's not really the real you. The real you is the person that is on screen, but it's also the person that's not on screen. And it's that person that's always navigating the river in various different places. And it's difficult to show people that you're a real person. And especially like, today, with the streaming, it's different than perhaps 30, 40 years ago, where the people on the screen were actors and they would only show up as action figures, and their real lives, we really didn't see that. But now people who are on the screen are really showing their lives, and so it's not a balance, but it's something else. It's life. You're seeing somebody's life, and that's
Right.
difficult to understand as a viewer.
Well, I think there's something else that's also, and this is why I said the viewers are also a part of this, because let's just say you're also seeing someone's life, right? It's not like we've gone to a point where we're watching it and we're like, oh, we know they're a character, right? Because we know they're actors and actresses, right? But then now you have people that come off on the regular that come on stream, and then there was a time where you say, wow, especially if they did a vlog, then it was really talking about their lives. But somehow now they've taken streaming and then say, well, now that's all basically that. And then it came to a point for the audience, the viewer, to do what a lot of people do in social media now. Because like I said this so many times, but I used to say it, I'm gonna say it again. There was a time where we can turn on our TVs, turn on the internet, we gathered whatever we would catch it from. We didn't take it seriously. We turned it off and went back to real life. Somehow it turned into we look at things online and now we drag it from online into real life. The same way it's an inverse. We watch people, we watch their lives, and then sometimes instead of just turning it off and saying, well, I got my life, we try to embed ourselves within their lives.
Yeah. I kind of, I'm like, I've got a specific couple of streamers on my mind. I don't know if you know the show. It's some of the original YouTubers, Good Mythical Morning, Rhett and Link. I don't know if you know who that is.
Not Rhett and Link. Yeah. But I have heard of the show. I have
Yep.
heard of the show.
Yeah, and there's some of the original YouTubers, and they used to do this segment called Will It, right? And depending on what they chose to do, will it, be a, will it this, will it that, will it was, kind of those old challenges, those old cinnamon challenge, things like that, right? And they would do certain segments. And yeah, that wasn't real life back then. And still, even today, when you look at it and you go, that's not real life. But they have made it their life, and they've done very well for themselves doing so. But those are the good, right? So you've got the crazy stuff that people do, and that's just kind of one of those, like, hey, this is kind of cool, like you can do this, but it's not crazy, not really crazy stuff that people do online to try to get fame and fortune and clout and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, I mean, the idea that things are the way they used to be, it's not the way it used to be, where you just turn the internet off, turn the TV off, whatever, go to bed. Or if you're not turning it off, you're turning it on music or movies, and you just watch that until you sleep, or listen to the music until you sleep. People are staying up late watching streaming, filling their heads, becoming part of the show. And the question comes, is this good for the streamer themselves, or is it good for the show? Is it good for the people watching it? And how far do you take these things into real life? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, sitting thinking to myself. Is it possible to actually enjoy content without like reinforcing like those bad behaviors? I think for some streamers they get so, because it becomes a viral. Like I know the answer for me, but I don't think everybody sees it that way. And I think when they see something that takes off because they've done a particular action, like maybe they crashed out or whatever. Do you think it's possible to, like I said, to enjoy that type of content without reinforcing that behavior?
Yes,
Okay.
if it's an act, if it's strictly an act.
Okay.
But that's, at the same time, that can be difficult because a lot of newcomers especially want to believe that it's not an act,
Okay.
whereas your older audience knows that it's an act. Yes and no. It depends on who it is. If you watch an SNL skit, it's an act.
Yeah.
We turn on the TV and we know a lot of things are an act. But then when here's a point of it too. So when the news comes on, you have your 6 or 7 o'clock news. Those segments are the news. But then the 8 and 9 o'clock segments come on, and a lot of people don't realize that that's not the news. These are what's called commentators in the news business, and these are people who basically spin the narrative. These guys come on after the news segment because those stations have a bias, and so the networks put these people on to spin a narrative to try to sway you to their side or whatever. And so you have the news, and then there's this commentation of whatever presented as if it's news. Bill O'Reilly, Glenn Beck, Don Lemon. These are people who aren't there for you. They're there for the network. But then there's a lot of the audience there that's there just for their own prerogative, whatever it is. And they talk to their family and their friends and say, these are the things that happened on this show that I just saw. And this is exactly also what's happening in the chats. And so people are talking back and forth saying, yeah, so if I play a clip of some police action, right? The clip is played and we can chat about what happened in the clip in the real life. But then the commentator comes on and talks about it to try to sway you to this or to that. Okay. And then we talk about what that means for us. And depending on how we, view the world, the audience will weed this out or weed that out. And it's difficult. It really is absolutely difficult. Especially in spaces like this, where it's panel adjacent. And then when you get into the real panels, things get really crazy. And a lot of audience doesn't know where to go. And it's hard to direct.
So I think so. As you're saying that, because you're saying that the panel doesn't know. I'm sorry. The panel doesn't know the goal, but I'm also thinking about the audience, right? Because I'm thinking to myself, all right, fine. So if you're there and you're engaging in it, and then we notice that also the panel might be loose, and this is really just the difference between, I wouldn't even say a strong moderator or not, but just the fact of, because the moderator can only do so much, the panel's still responsible for their own focus, you know. But as we're also looking at this as people who have views, right? Audience in the chat, where do we basically draw the line between the entertainment factor and also a responsibility? And that's in my mind. And I'm thinking about that also as someone who's on the panel, but also as someone who would be a viewer. Where is that? You know, that's a rough one for me,
Yeah.
because it's also
That's
depending on what my expectations are, what my personal expectations are on the channel that I'm watching. Yeah.
yeah. It really does fall down to the person themselves. And you know, that's actually a good thing. You know, it takes all types. Literally, like, the world is full of views, full of viewpoints. Uh, and that's a good thing. You know, everything that I see happening out here, I can relate to you in words, or I can maybe even get a video of it and convey it to you the best I can. You know, I can put it there for you to see. But then you're going to either take it or not. And then if you do take it, what you're going to do is then have your view of it and then relay it to the next person. Kind of like Password, the old game that used to play in elementary school. Things get construed this way or construed that way. And by the end of the day, the story is not the same.
Correct. So I want to look at this because Cam Asby says, what does a creator do when the subs become bad for the creator? I mean, what could they do? I mean, not for nothing, a creator has many outlets, or rather, or many options that they can choose. The thing about it is that, are they okay with taking losses? And I think a lot of creators come down to the point where they don't want to take a loss. You know, like, I'll tell you what I did. Um, and you can see it for yourself. The first thing I did was I pulled back heavily on my time, not just for myself, knowing very well that it was going to be, there were people that were going to leave, there were people that were going to complain, there were people, and for the most part, it was actually pretty decent. But like, I had to sit there and watch um, week after week, almost every day. I had to watch a new number drop, and I had to be like, "This is okay." Because it's true in the matter. You have to think about it as this: when I'm doing these shows, when I am having my conversations with you guys, I'm also thinking, we're not for everybody. We're for the people that want to be in the mindset of having these kind of conversations like that, right? And that means if you're a person that you're here for ulterior motives, then that means my vacancy, my time where I'm not posting, my inconsistency is starving you, and you'll eventually leave. For those that are interested in another perspective, they're yearning for the next opportunity. They're yearning for the next episode. You can even put it that way. But for those that are just interested in something totally different, there's no sense. Just starve them out. I, the way how I'm putting it is that there are people who will try to dictate what you're going to do. And if they feel like they're not getting their way, what they'll do is that they'll hold their breath. And I say, make sure they suffocate.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm not. I mean, if you wanna dive in, like, you know, go be my guest. But if there's sharks in the water, I'm not diving in after you. You know, like, that's your choice. And so, yeah, hold your breath. That's yeah. Yeah. I feel the same way.
Yeah, but you will be there by yourself. And that's the way I look at it. And I've
Yeah.
had people try to tell me a whole lot of stuff, and I'm just like, yeah. But if it doesn't serve me, in the way how I can do things. That I can't do something if I hate it. Like I can do it if it's easy. Sure, I can, I can follow that logic if it's easier, if I just don't care about it. But if it's something that I'm trying to bring forth and it's really not serving me, or if I detest it, there's no way I'm keeping that up. Yeah, they say
Yeah,
that they say
absolutely.
they say if a man finds himself in a position where he doesn't want to be in, you don't have to worry about firing him. He will create his own door and walk out himself. And that's it. So many people told me to stick around. And I'm just like, yeah, I'll just take a break. I'll do that because it's better than me losing my mind. So creators have options, but it's also the same for the audience. The audience has the option of saying, how much do I know the creator enough to say, I understand what they're going through, and when they're ready, I'll still be here. The same way how I'm also not worried about audience members who go to subscribe to you because the creator that they do watch says, subscribe to, hey, go to Clay Foundation, subscribe to him. And they do it because I said so. And the next time when you go live, they get a notification. They're like, oh, that's that guy subscribed to Resla. And then they unsubscribe. Like, don't do it because you're not interested. Just don't hit the button. It's okay. And that's the way how I look at it that way. Do it because you actually are trying to give somebody a fair shot. Here's the truth of the matter. You never know what you might like. But you have to give it a fair shot first. It's like eating food. You never know what other dishes you're going to like, but you got to give it a shot first. And the only way you'll know it's not really for you is that first you must first partake. That's just the way how I look at it. I could be wrong to some people, but I know I didn't get this palate of mine until I tried different shit. I mean, like I've watched creators long after other people said that they fell off. When they've lost massive subscribers, I'm just like, oh yeah, for a while because see what's going on. And there are people who, quite frankly, they are really good or decent creators, and sometimes the reason that they stalled is not even their fault. It's people who, quite frankly, the hate watchers that do stupid shit like report them, and it affects their channel, ruining it for thousands of other people for one person's selfish goals. And then again, if that person goes away, now you're like, yes, they're gone. And now you're bored because you don't have anyone to hate watch. Unless you clipped everything, you can't even say, I'm going to go back and watch all their old reruns. The channel's gone. Nothing for you to watch. Buried. So now what do? You sit in squalor. Versus it, now you have no entertainment. Like, that's the thing. You were being fueled by hate and your rage for somebody, but now you don't even have that because that person's gone. You're like, remember the good old days where I used to just hate Brick? Those were the days. Like, you don't even have that now.
Can't even find it. Nope.
Facts. It's all gone.
Can't.
And let's be honest, folks, because I've said this before, and you guys proved it to me when I asked you in the chat. If that same person goes to another platform, what is the likelihood that you're going to go there to continue your out? You're not. The majority of you on YouTube are not going to go to another platform. You're not going to go to Kick. You're not going to go to Twitch. You're not going to go to Rumble. You're not going to do that. You will suggest to the content creator where else they can go. But they also know that you're not going there. It is what it is. But I also don't blame those other creators for reaching a much larger and possibly another diverse community. But if you're like, where have you been at? Oh, we've been partying over here. We've been having a good old fucking time. And you're like, oh, what's some of your content? Oh, a lot of stuff that we do here, but we also do some other stuff here and we do this here. Wow, that sounds great. I'm still not going. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned the build up, right? It's people will build up their favorite creator just to tear them down later. It's like you should, go date so and so to, just later on. Oh, they did that. You should break up with them. Like, what? You're the
Hey,
one
hey,
who told me to.
I like that you're with so and so, right? But check your DMs and it's something. If I didn't know about this, why did you feel like you needed to take it upon yourself to highlight all the worst shit? But you were the one recommending that person to me. Why didn't you do all of your in-depth investigation prior to you even thinking to recommend them to me for? Like, what? Why would you do that? Why didn't you just do all your homework ahead of time? That's not
And
what you did, though.
that's a good point because I believe a lot of it is unintentional. It's not like they intend to like say, oh, now you got to go harm this person or you need to be harmed for its, they didn't know and they didn't have all the facts and they didn't know how you felt about things. Like the creator's feelings never come into factor.
Happy you said that.
Yeah. Like your outlook on things, the way you view things, that doesn't come into factor because, well, the creator's here for us and we need our show already.
Yeah.
But you liked the creator for some reason and you liked it for what? Authenticity? Or did you like the regiment? Did you like that it was always, one thing? And there's validity to a story. Like, so for me, I like to look at it like the movies, right? So, actions are cool, thrillers, whatever. But doesn't matter what kind of movie. If the story isn't good, it's not like a good story. And it could, there's what is like 6 or 7, traditional stories. And it's so easy to go at least by those plots. But then every once in a while, you'll find one of these stories that you're like, whoa, I've never looked at a story like that before. And it's like, how did he come up with that? And those are the extraordinary ones. But at least go by one of the, the traditional stories. Have a good story. And with your creators, that's what started you on a journey typically. Or there's, I will say with YouTube, there's the want to learn things. So a lot of people are how to do this, or, teach me how to do this, or what's this? So there is that, which is why I ended up in the space that I'm in, because I wanted to learn the law. But typically with a lot of creators, like, I want to watch something where people are people, not just robots, and so.
Con. I get that Crowder he left YouTube and went to Rumble, but let's be honest, Rumble was the best place for him to go. If you look at what the demographics and what the most of the shows are on Rumble, it's either religious or politics. It really has nothing else going on. Now but YouTube is so vast. See, Crowder went into an area where his niche was already going to be founded. It was going to grow because you can be a person who has roughly no subscribers. But if you got a good platform, if you got a good take, you got the right attitude, and then in the very platform you're going to, the platform itself is basically a niche. It's either religious or politics. I have not seen any. Gaming will not survive there. Variety will not survive there. Opinionated would not survive there. It's gonna keep it a buck. So he's not really the exception because he was already doing well and he already had sponsors and everything when he was on YouTube. It just so happened when Rumble was taking off, it was already heavily political. Steven Crowder does politics, so it was already a good match for him. That is really what it is.
He just fell right in, kind of thing. Yeah.
And on top of that, when he came in, he didn't just hit the ground floor. Rumble actually supported him. They openly supported him.
Right. Yep. But yeah, I mean, and that's another thing, right? So, especially with the way the internet is now, so many different platforms, so many different niches now with YouTube, it being pretty much the major long form video platform. There's certain types of content that they don't want, and they will just get rid of you just because they can. But then there's also literally people in the YouTube audience that do not want you anywhere on social media and do the hate watching until they get a chance to, shiv you.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah, that's wild. And to each their own. The thing is, YouTube has a policy against that, but I don't know how often they enforce it either, right? So, who knows what the guy behind the curtain does, right? And I'm not pushing for this or that. I look and I'd say, oh, that's the way it is. It's just the way it is, right? And and so again, like with creators, there's the niches, there's the little bit of variety that you get, but depending on the audience, that can be a big factor in things. It's a massive factor in a lot of cases. Yeah, especially with political content, like political content, massive factor. Religious content, the deadly niches.
Yeah, very, very, very big.
Yeah. So,
and I mean, I don't begrudge people from going on it. To me, there's just not a lot of growth and discovery in my personal opinion. I mean, let's be honest. How many times you're going to hear about the same stuff? Where do you grow? Because you have to be you have to have a very good imagination to be able to switch up the same ingredients and make it different. That's just the way how I look at it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean,
not saying you can't make a decent dish, but it's only but so many.
I like that you use the example of food, right? So if your niche happens to be food, right? Are you there because you want to see how people mess up a recipe, or are you there to literally learn how to cook some food? Right. And if you're there to just crap on somebody else's recipe, it's really probably not going to work out well for you or the creators in those spaces. It's not good for anybody. That's not what I would call good, right? This is actually bad and sometimes ugly. But if you're there to legit learn about things, that's great. Or if you're there for entertainment, and when I say entertainment, not the bad, the good, right? It's not healthy. It's not healthy at all.
No, I get it. But I think a lot of people, they're not there for the information. And I think that's the part this is why I'm going to talk about the entertainment part versus the responsibility. Because if you're there saying you want to be there for a educational or informational stimulating conversation, but again, you're not learning anything, what entertainment? Like what did you get back from it? To me, if you can't use it, if you're not thinking enough to be able to use it, kind of a waste. And this is why, like when you're saying like watching the show for the cooking and to learn how to cook, right? But are you learning how to cook if the channel you're looking at is only showcasing fast food?
Here's how I cook Domino's. I ordered that some bitch.
Yeah. Here's how you get a steaming slice. You throw it in the microwave. Like, wait, what? Yeah, we're not even going to show you to heat that oven. We're just going to throw it in the microwave. This is how you get it done. It's like, okay, sure. Cheap cooked meals, and then you see they're all frozen food. Come on, man.
Well, you know, so like this is something I actually figured out too. This is, I mean, obviously it's not something that's complicated, but there's only two things in life that really like matter as to like life in general. It's what you can say, what you can do. Those are the only two things that you actually have control over. You don't have control over anything else in life. None of it matters. It's what you can say and what you can do. And so when you're watching creators, you're listening to people, what else
The
is
rules
there?
still apply. The rules will always apply.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you can do is you can support your creators, but you can also know when to hold them accountable, but also what you say matters because it could influence their decisions. It could. And it all depends on where the creator are in their journey.
Exactly. Are they carrying the boat or are they having to paddle through some rapids? And are you going to throw them a line if they are?
I think there's a lot of people who watch creators and they're only looking for rough waters.
Facts.
They're only looking and they're just like, figure it out. I'm here to watch you just struggle.
Struggle, motherfucker. Struggle.
Yeah. That's pretty much what it is. All right, Brick, I appreciate it.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it here. We're at a 3-hour mark. It doesn't seem like really gonna get people up. But I do want to put a limitation a bit on what we do on the channel. We will be doing this weekly. So right now it will be 1 day a week as I fit a lot of other stuff going into my schedule. At some point there will be a community post when I actually have our right schedule. And it will be a posted day where we, consistently, it'll always be that day for Opinionated. So I haven't figured out if I want it back on, because I restarted originally on Wednesdays. I don't know if I want to stick it on Wednesdays or if I want to put it on Fridays, but Fridays happen to be those weird nights for me. But yeah, we want something more consistent. So I will be working on that. And then as the year unfolds, we'll see what happens in the channel. But I know I don't want to give too much to people, and I know too many people are not very focused. So that works out well. All right. But I appreciate you coming up. Absolutely.
All right, brother, man.
Of course.
Very cool.
Anytime.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Always a pleasure to be on the panel verse over at Resla.
Do me a favor. But,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I got to give you a hard time. Panel versus Jason.
All right. I appreciate you guys. So, thoughts about some of the things that we were covering for today, right? And I think a lot of us we have streamers that we take a look at, right? We take a look at and we say, "Oh, that person's a bad person because of this or that," or heaven forbid they fall into a scandal or they fall into a misrepresentation of what the situation actually is. And I think a lot of people, a lot of streamers, people and actual audience, we're all trying to figure it out at the same time. And I think we don't do enough. We don't do enough to give each other care, mercy, and a little bit of grace. Because we want other people to have it all together. Even me doing this stream, as much as I can think about what I want to do, I still have to make it work. And that comes through time, experience, and of course, repetition. So when people ask the question like, are streamers good people? I don't hear a moral question anymore. Not really. I do hear a bit of anxiety from the question. I hear people trying to figure out who they can trust in a space that keeps disappointing them. Because nobody asked the questions after the incident took place. They're only looking at the patterns, right? After seeing enough people start off a particular way, after seeing how they end up in a completely different mind frame, it makes me wonder. But I think here's a part where some of us keep missing. Streamers didn't really betray anyone. They didn't flip a switch. They didn't start just shifting out of nowhere. They're not foreign. I think what happens is that we all, streamers and audience, stopped paying attention to the things that were really important and started riding the wave. We didn't stop to pause. We didn't stop to take personal and private moments to ourselves to correct ourselves. We didn't remove away the the responsibility of making sure that we're all on task. And streaming somehow speeds everything up, whether it's growth, validation, but also our mistakes and our exposure. And it's something that we should all consider going forward. If you are a streamer who is struggling trying to find what really works for you, I will say you should consider taking a break. And I know it's a rough question, a rough position to think about having to be in. But it is what it is. Sometimes it's the best thing for you. You know, sometimes you got to take a medicine. And I get it for some people, but they think the medicine is worse than the actual disease. But that's the whole point about being uncomfortable and admitting it. And if you're a person that doesn't like being comfortable, that's also for you as well. That's your decision to make. So if you're watching this and thinking, I would never do that, maybe pause for a moment. But maybe it is the best thing for you. Other than that, I will be taking off. That's gonna be my question for you guys. No verdict. Uh, no clean spirals, but keeping your opinions and asking what can you do, not just for your favorite creator, but also what can you do for the community that you say that you want to grow. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and of course, stay opinionated.